After the event of the last game, Nate and Sully are now in so much debt that they have to sell Nate's ring in order to make rent this month. But right as they're about to sell it to this guy named Talbot, they realize he's trying to scam them. After a few fights and a very strange interaction with this buff guy in the restroom, we make it out but get cornered by this bitch who looks like she'd be a mid-2000s Disney Channel movie villain. Before she can do anything though, Cutter comes up with a brilliant idea and shoots us straight into a flashback to when Nate was a poor orphan living in Colombia of all places. Apparently, Nate met Sully when they were both trying to steal Francis Drake's ring, but Marlo catches Nate. However, he hits that bitch with the old fake Joker gag. Shit, wrong game. He hit that bitch with the old disappearing ream trick. She didn't like that very much, so now we have to dip. What was this guy watching that a bunch of strangers walk into his living room, and he's concerned with covering up the TV? Did Riley Reid drop without me noticing or something? Because he must have been watching the good stuff, or else he wouldn't have had that reaction. We get cornered, but Sully steps in to save us, and just like that, we have a father now. We come back to the present, and Nate and Sully are fine? Somehow? Because Cutter faked their deaths? We meet up with the girl who's half the reason I'm playing this game, Chloe, so we can jump this bitch Marlo in an empty warehouse. Only problem is she's not there. Instead, she's in this tunnel that had a hidden entrance. Why do all British villains need to have like a hidden entrance in everything they're in? Doesn't matter, we sneak through the tunnel where Nate ragdolls this fucker. We find Marlo and Talbot right as they realize we gave them the fake ring. So they leave the room, which conveniently gives us the opportunity to steal the decoder and the map from them. On the way out, we get Vivid on some goons, and then we hold a group meeting. Turns out this time around we're looking for the last few cups of Belle Delphine's bathwater. We're talking about the original ones here, not the re-released ones. And the bathwater is somewhere in the hidden sand village. So we have Chloe and Cutter go to Syria, and Nate and Sully go to France. While in France, we destroy the centuries-old mansion, then find out that Talbot and his men are here, so we get Vivid on them. We raid a coffin and find half an amulet that Talbot takes from us, and instead of shooting us when we're unarmed, which would be the smart thing to do, instead he has his goons light the building on fire. Of course, plot armor saves us, and Sully gives us a nice little talk about the birds and the bees. This gotta be one of the worst ambushes I've ever seen. I don't know what pisses me off more, the fact that they didn't cover this big-ass window at the top that we Spider-Man'd our way up to, or that they were covering a locked door. Screw it. Soon after that, we find Chloe and Cutter, get Vivid on Talbot's men, and we find an entrance to some tunnels. But before we can go in, Cutter gets roofied by Talbot. Good thing for us, we have the perfect antidote for it, though. These hands. Oh shoot, never mind. Apparently Cutter has a crazy grip. On his chokehold, I mean. Before Sully blows Cutter's brains out. Pause. Chloe promises to do some things to him if he'll let us go, and it works because it's Chloe. Look at her. We get the other half of the amulet, and for some reason give it to the guy who just tried to kill us. We get into a standoff with Talbot, but Cutter's roofie kicks in again, and he makes us drop our guns. But he was faking, so now we can't defend him when Talbot sneaks up on him to steal the amulet. Cutter jumps off to use his grappling hook, but the roofie made him forget that wasn't added till the next game, so instead he breaks his leg. Fuck this section right here, because I kept dying because Nate could never land this kick, but eventually I managed to make it through, and Chloe and Cutter leave because, Cutter almost died, and Chloe doesn't want the same to happen to her, so now we have to ask Elena for help, and she dumped Nate in between games again. We throw hands with Talbot's men in the middle of this market, and I've been watching this shit over and over again while editing, and I still can't accept this. He just smacked this fucker with a trout. We flee the scene, and oddly enough, we end up exactly where we need to be. We get the information we need and get Vivid again. This part bugged me when playing the game. Elena tells us that we can't have guns on the street, and so that's why we have to throw ours down the well before we leave. But if we can't have guns, then how did Talbot's men bring a whole ass armory to fight us while we were down in the well? Whatever. We get roofied with the same stuff they got Cutter with. And we wake up in front of Marlo, who tells us that she's with the British Illuminati. That's actually a canon fact, by the way. We run off to go fight Talbot, and get third-partied by this dude who looks like a Texan pirate. He kidnaps us and takes us back to his ship, where he says howdy, then yeehaws his way out of here. But he threatens Sully, so we can't just stand by while he harms our father. So we fight his men. Felt like I was playing the Arkham games again with this combat section, and that felt good. No guns, just straight hands. While I like this part, this pissed me off because why don't they all just jump him? He can't take them all at once. Anyways, we fight our way out, and I don't think we're in Yemen anymore. This section kicks my ass every time I play this game. I went in thinking I was just bad the first few times I played this game a few years ago. Nah, it's still hard. Looking at the footage, it took me 15 minutes to get through this, but it felt like an hour and a half when I was playing through it. We get Vivid on some more pirates to sneak onto this Titanic-looking ship and find Sully at the bottom. but we got hit with the old fake Sully gag. We snap the pirates so we can escape, but accidentally cause the ship to start sinking. We run into the Texan one more time before he gives us one last yee-haw, then offs himself. But we make it out and conveniently drift back to Yemen. Nate walks to Orlando's hotel where she takes him back, I guess. So they smash, then go ambush an airstrip so they can get onto this plane. While on the plane, we got a little too vivid and get ejected. Like literally ejected because this plane rips in half. But we're fine, we just have to walk our way to go get Sully. Eventually, we make it to this town and Nate puts up a good fight for someone who hasn't had food for days and is severely dehydrated. Right as all hope seems lost, we get saved by Salim. He tells us that the bathwater is too powerful and that it led to the downfall of the Hidden Sand village. After going to sleep thinking about what Salim said, in the morning we still go look for it. And I guess to save Sully too, since, he's on the way there. Nate keeps saying that Sully had to be in the front, and all I kept thinking was, what if he's wrong and Sully was in one of these metal trucks we just blew up? But the plot needed him to be right, so we save our father and head to the Hidden Sand village. But we gotta get vivid on these goons first. Never mind, no one respects the 1v1 anymore. After a few tries, we make it into the city and drink the Gamer Girl bathwater, which causes Nate to go on the best worst drug trip he's ever been on. First he sees an eclipse, then Sully gets clapped right in front of him. Pause. Right after that he fights fire demons. Then he goes back to Colombia for a little bit. This is when he starts to sober up though, and Sully tells him that the bathwater is too powerful to be let out of the village. But before we could stop the British Illuminati, we have a nice little bath. Now we can stop Marlo and Talbot. Marlo tries to bribe us with the ring she took from us, but Nate ain't no simp. We get a rematch with Talbot, but this time Sully is there to third party for us. Nate falls off though, and Sully has to take a beating for a little while we line up the shot. And just like that, the British Illuminati is done for. The game ends with Nate getting Elena back. Having destroyed another ancient city, the trio walks off. This truly was a thief's end. Oh wait, never mind, that's the next game. Fuck.